Hi there. This is a quick follow-up video to the set of reports I made a couple of days ago on the big spread of interviews for House of the Dragon in Entertainment Weekly. That it was the first big set of interviews that the whole cast had given, and it was this big 10-minute interview video that they cut together for all the cast members. That was the first one that came out, and then Hollywood Reporter the next week, and I'm still going through that. But because so much stuff came out, some things I didn't want to fall through the cracks. It was something that the Corlys Velaryon actor mentioned in the Entertainment Weekly stuff, Steve Toussaint. So this is short, this is audio only. I wasn't even going to make a video about it, but I said I'll rattle something off quickly, just conversationally. All of the main cast members were given signed copies of Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. He signed them, gave them the book that this is based on. Well, it's based on the second half of it because it's an anthology. And this came out at Comic-Con that, some people going whether they read it or they didn't. That in the Entertainment Weekly spread, in their video, Steve Toussaint explained up front and honestly, he said he didn't read the whole thing. Not even, when I say cover to cover, I mean even like starting with the point when the Dance of the Dragon starts, I'd consider that reading it, skipping the conquest stuff. He said he didn't read the whole thing. At first he intended to, but then decided that professionally this is the job of the screenwriters to decide what the TV story is. But he said, I skimmed a couple of major scenes to go, okay, this is what Corlys does in this section, or his voyages or something. He said, I skimmed through some of the important parts, but I made the conscious decision not to just read it straight through. And I just wanted to make it very clear to everyone, I fully agree with his decision, and I applaud his candor with us. In case you've forgotten, and I have remarked on this back in the Season 8 Blu-ray clips when I was posting them, it was really upsetting in the Season 8 Blu-ray commentary when the Varys actor Conleth Hill, he explained in his Blu-ray commentary, he remarked that for years, for the 8 seasons that this has been going on, he said many of the prominent cast members who, during conventions and interviews, when people would ask, well, have you read the books? They would flat out lie to us. He said a lot of people who, like I was at the same panel when they were asked, and they were publicly asked, have you read the books? I know, either they told me or just through whatever, I know they were lying. That they would tell us, of course we read the book, to shut us up. So if you remember that at the time when I posted the clip, I said I really respect that Conleth Hill was actually honest with us, for once. One of the actors, for once, was being honest with us, and just, that is awful that you would do that you would lie, and it's particularly because the Pycelle actor, Julian Glover, in another interview, and I posted this, another thing, I'm not going to link it, it was a long time ago. Middle of the show, he gave a good answer in an interview, very professional, he's a long-term actor, on why he didn't read the books, and he is honest, and he stands by that decision. If you feel you need to lie about it, then it's not a legitimate, honest choice. If you think it's embarrassing if you haven't read it, then it's a problem, versus whether you made a choice and you stand by it. What the Pycelle actor, Julian Glover, said was, because he has this long career, not just, like Indiana Jones, and, he was General Veers in Star Wars, but he's done a lot of book adaptations over the decades, from, back through the 1980s, and he listed off, historical stuff he's even done that were book adaptations. So there's this interview where the Pycelle actor is explaining, I have made a conscious choice since 40 years ago, when I was starting out my acting career, that I will never read the source material if it's an adaptation, because that is the job of the screenwriters, and I don't want to step on their toes. Now, there are different schools of opinion. I don't think that's objectively right, I don't think it's objectively wrong, but he made an artistic choice to do that. Because then the problem is, what if the writers are really going nuts and doing something really weird that is not true to the character? Then it comes to the actor to sometimes need to defend that, So from the other end of the spectrum, sometimes you need to do that. I'm thinking of like the go-to example of a bad adaptation is like Joss Whedon's Justice League, for example, where Cyborg, Ray Fisher's actor, said, "I refuse to say booyah," the line from the cartoon, because it is not true to the character that is being portrayed seriously in this context. That was a jokey line. That isn't actually that good of a comparison, but you understand that sometimes the actor should disagree with the screenwriter that this isn't true to the tone. That was more of a tone thing than an adaptation thing, but you understand. Or like when the Barristan Selmy actor, that's the big one, wrote them a long letter, letting off Weiss a long letter saying, "My character does a lot more in the next books. Why are you killing him off? He even becomes a POV narrator. He gets his own chapters. This doesn't make sense. What are you doing?" And then they brushed off, "That made us want to fire him even more, and it sure scared everyone else into line." I mean, they said that publicly, and that isn't funny, but you see what I'm saying here, that sometimes you do need an actor to read the source material like the Barristan Selmy actor and disagree. No, this is not true to the character as in the book. Then sometimes you get prima donna actors who are just screwing it up and not doing the vision. So there's an argument for this. The point is, I respect that the Pie Cell actor, Julian Glover, upfront and honestly said, in general principle, I've made it a point never to read the source material of any book because my job is to interpret the script in his view. And that's the right way to do that, to openly and honestly say that. And the thing is, the cast, who, I don't know which ones, Conleth Hill didn't say which ones, but anyone who lied to us about, "Oh, I read the books," when they really didn't, you could have just said, because this is an adaptation and kind of different from the book, it's my job to interpret the script. It's the writer's job, the screenwriter's job, to interpret the book. They could have done that. Julian Glover did that. And it was just really dishonest. And I know it's a long book. I know they're long books and they're busy with everything. But on the other hand, this is a major franchise and a privilege to be doing it. And that you wouldn't take that seriously. Now, again, if I don't know, if the Tywin Lannister actor Charles Dance said, "I didn't feel I needed to read the book." Now, I think he has enough clout. He would just honestly say, "It's my job to do the script," but I don't know. That don't lie to us like that. You could even cite, it's the actor's job to do the script. It's the whole, if you need to lie about something, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Because, yes, that, and treating like, "Oh, we're harassing them." That is a very legitimate question. Have you read the source material? And it's not even a gotcha question or one that could get them, they could say, "No, I didn't because I actively chose not to." So the lying is upsetting to me. And I don't want to keep this that long, so it's audio only, I'm not editing it. That, much like the Pie Cell actor, there's 2 points to this video. First, like the Pie Cell actor, I very much respect Steve Toussaint's candor with us, that up front, right away, he said, "I made a conscious decision not to read the whole thing. I've read selections from it for like key scenes I wanted to do a comparison for, but I don't think I should because that's the job of the screenwriter to do it." In general principle, for any adaptation of the works of George R. R. Martin. Second point out of 2 is, for the Dance of the Dragons part, more than any other potential prequel, we should not really press the actors on whether they have read the source material because of the unreliable narrator conceit that Martin used very specifically for this time period. There's a few unreliable narrator things in like the Targaryen conquest, but that's 1 or 2 things. This is the point where Martin played around with the Dance of the Dragons because it was a huge civil war that divided Westeros. There was no clear winner, that there are rival historical sources, and it is difficult to determine what actually happened. That there's the pro-Rhaenyra historian and the pro-Aegon II historian and the salacious historian guy, so we can't really piece together what happened. That has been a fandom question just in the books for years. What was Rhaenyra really like? What was Alicent really like? and it's the Rashomon thing, and Martin loved playing around with that. That he's done this more than anything else, more than any other prequel he's ever done. Played around with that the source material you're reading gives alternate versions of things. So, for other prequels, I will be concerned with asking the actor, have you read the source material? I would prefer if you did, but if not, respectfully tell us I have made an artistic decision not to, but to rely on the script, because that's the writer's job. So for Targaryen Conquest, going through the time of Maegor, I would ask someone, have you read the source material? For the Blackfire Rebellions, for Dunk and Egg, which is in the pilot script phase now, which is the only, if you're not familiar with this, the only other prequel that is narrativized, where it isn't even written like a history book, it is written like a POV that's just always from Dunk's POV. Dunk and Egg, we would ask, have you read the source material? Then there's other prequels that, of the ones that they're considering right now, that they said, well, we're considering Nymeria and the 10,000 Ships of the Rhoynar, which would be great. It's not even a standalone prequel novella. It's like a chapter in the world of Ice and Fire. And I would ask an actor, have you skimmed that? Because there's not even characterization in it. It's maybe, 10 to 20 pages I have to look up, but that's a question we'd have if and when we get to Nymeria stuff. Anything that they need to know about Nymeria would be in the series Bible anyway, that the writers make up an info pack for the actors. That anything they'd need to know about Nymeria they could get from wiki pages and from the series Bible, which would just be reiterating what it says in the World Book. So Nymeria, more obscure spin-offs, I wouldn't even read what. It's story notes. Long Night prequel, which was a terrible idea, and the THR interview talked about that a lot. There was no source material, but Dunk and Egg, which is the only other one that's written like a book, and now is the first 3 novellas were put into a hardcover called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, so it is a book. Dunk and Egg, we'll ask, have you read the source material? And it's okay to say no, it's just not okay to lie that you did when you didn't. Targaryen Conquest, also, it's an outline, it's like a history book, but it's straightforward enough, I would ask you to do that. Out of any prequel era, any other spin-off, due to the rival sources nature and unreliable narrator Rashomon thing in Fire and Blood, I'm telling you all now, because this is an issue that keeps coming up, as a hardcore book fan, I am unconcerned about whether the actors have read it or not. And in many cases, it might be a bad idea for them to read it. Because it gives these drastically alternate... I don't want the alternate set of things, because not just, I'm pro-Rhaenyra. The pro-Rhaenyra source put a positive spin on it that might not reflect reality. Much less that the pro-Alicent ones say Alicent did something really bad. In short, if actors read Fire and Blood, I don't want the third account, which is that salacious dwarf jester Mushroom making up all of these scandalous things. I don't want them to read Fire and Blood and get ideas from what Mushroom says. I really don't. That isn't funny. So, given a choice, I'd rather they stick with what the writers tell them than be exposed to Mushroom's nonsense and his salacious allegations of impropriety. So, now what they said, came up in other videos, that they even considered for a while, like, doing flashbacks, things that, like, show 3 alternate versions of a scene, but that was quickly shot down as that's too hard. They said, we're trying to show what really happened objectively. That this is what really happened, and between even the book fans would say, like, we know what the pro-Rhaenyra historian and what the pro-Alicent historian said. This is probably what really happened between those two extremes, and we'd work out, okay, that's... And from leaks I've heard, I pretty much agree with the choices they made, where they didn't go with one or the other. They went with something kind of in between those two ends of the spectrum of the pro-Rhaenyra, pro-Alicent, that this is probably what got distorted. But not trying to improve on the book, but try to go, like what we as book readers did. We were trying to parse out the real story in between. They did what we do. Trying to go, well, don't trust one or the other. Understand that the truth was probably in between those two. And that's what they did. So I am more concerned about, are they taking this seriously? Are they strictly paying attention to the info packs and the series Bible that the writers gave them? That is more important to me. That I don't want them. It would be very difficult for any actor to base a performance like the Rhaenyra actor, for the Alicent actor, on the narrative conceit that they're conflicting sources. You can't do that. And I wouldn't expect them to. I just hope they don't lie to us and say they did, because we don't even care if you did. For this prequel in particular, is very difficult. Now, the Steve Toussaint actually seemed very knowledgeable, and like he paid attention to the series Bible that they prepared for him about what are the Velaryons like. In the interviews, saying, well, the Velaryons actually came to, in many ways, they're the first Valyrian family of Westeros, because they came there before the Targaryens did, that they were a trade outpost long before the Doom of Valyria. That's entirely accurate. Like, you can tell he put a lot of thought into this, was strictly, attentively reading the series Bible that was prepared for him. Some people treat it as, it's a role. Yeah, there's a series Bible there, I'll look at it later. No, he really, you can tell he paid attention to all of the prep they gave him, to the lore. But he needs to rely on that Ryan Condal and his team developed a story that's not... It's based on the book, but the book has these two rival sources, and it's picking a middle path for them. And he has to base it on the TV continuity correlates that the writers have come up with. And I fully understand, I think you all would agree with that of any prequel era, this is the one where I would not really strictly ask if people read it. So moving forward, I don't want them to lie to us. For example, Season 1, the question of who killed Harwin Strong has at least 4 possible answers. It's not even just 2 or 3. That's one of the biggest ones, because by that point, Daemon could have killed him. Some even plausibly say Viserys could have killed him, set the fire that killed him. And some think Corlys killed him for having the affair with Rhaenyra and possibly fathering bastard children with his son. Me personally, I think it was the 4th option, that no, Harwin's younger brother killed him, because he also killed his father in the same fire, to seize control of Harrenhal. And as the new Lord of Harrenhal, and that is very plausible, because then he became Lord, he came into power, that it would make more sense for me for Larys Strong to have done that. And that'll be a big question for Season 1, because I've heard that we will see who did it. They won't leave it ambiguous, but they picked one version. I don't know which. Just they said they went with one version. So, in this example for Steve Toussaint, how would he prepare for a role reading a book where it says Corlys may or may not have killed this guy, when the TV show is objectively picking it's equally possible someone else did? It's a mystery. I would not expect, it would be unreasonable to press an actor for that. Maybe for some of the objective facts of his life, but that's stuff you could read on like the book wiki page for Corlys, of what were his 9 voyages, what is Driftmark like. That it's not a narrative, story details about the background of the Velaryons. That's stuff that would be in the info pack that they gave him as part of the series Bible anyway. The basic points about his life. The finer details, that's things the show had to work out due to the unreliable narrator thing. So just going forward, and it came up at Comic-Con again, where people going, oh, we all got copies of the book. Did you read it? I am saying, as a dedicated book fan, due to the way this story was written with conflicting sources, I don't think we should press them on that. I'm saying I deeply respect that in the first video interview Steve Toussaint openly and honestly said, I made a conscious choice not to because the writers will do that and I'm adapting what they're doing. And unlike the other people in the past, he said, this is a legitimate decision that I stand by and I will defend, as opposed to, hiding and going, I read it. No, I really, this increased my respect for him immensely, how honest he was with the fans after people have been dishonest with us a lot about what was really going on behind the scenes, or did you even read the book or not? Don't lie to us. So, yeah, I would not press anyone at all. I mean, I might ask just, hey, did you read this? But it's okay if you didn't, because I know the conflicting sources. Like, if we were ever at, like, a panel at a convention someone showed up to, like, oh, by the way, are you familiar with this? Because I don't know if you read it or not. It's okay if you didn't. Just the thing in the background. Don't press them on this. It's not appropriate given the nature of the source material. And I hope other ones are as honest as Steve Toussaint was, and it was very nice of him. So this is off the cuff, audio only. I don't need to edit it because I didn't have any mistakes in this. But tell me your thoughts in the comments on this, of whether actors should read stuff or not, when times they were dishonest. And yeah, I really think that for the conflicting sources of this, it would be a good idea for many of them not to.